on-track Elise Trophy. This is going to be a huge weekend with some 15,000 spectators. Andrew, this race meeting this weekend was announced, what, 8 days ago?
Yeah, 8 days ago we got the call from DTM. They'd had a race series pull out. They said to us, do you want to come along and support the DTM weekend? We said, yes, of course we would, but we need to find out whether we can get enough cars. Made a few phone calls. 5 hours later, we had 36 cars, so a full grid.
Well, I'm joined right now by Martin Donnelly, great Formula One driver. Martin, thanks for joining us. Now, your involvement with Lotuses began in what year?
I started with Lotus to their F1 department in 89, 1990. When motor racing drivers were being biased, were of a proper era, where drivers could speak their mind and let the hair down in the days of Eddie Irvine and the likes of that, you know.
How does this Lotus car compare to the one that you used to race?
Well, if you ask me my honest opinion, I think this is a far prettier car. The car I had was like a big yellow blob, but obviously F1 was very special then, and obviously fantastic performance. But this car, you know, for a road-going track day car, is excellent value for money. This car, as you can see, is a proper road spec car. You can go out and get proper comprehensive insurance for that, and then you can drive it to any track day event, sign on, tape up your headlights in case you get some broken glass, and after that it's there. And by the grace of God, you've had a good day, you can still drive it home at the end of the day.
And you're going to be driving this one later on today, aren't you?
Well, I'm going to do a few demonstration laps later on the day. Hopefully you can join me as a passenger. Don't tell the wife, but it'll be a privilege.
Fabulous. Thanks very much for joining us, Martin.
The cars then making their way out onto the grid. They get 2 races here at DTM this weekend. Although the race has been announced at pretty short notice, it has attracted a whopping entry. And how about this? The first season for these cars and a support race weekend for DTM. Not a bad accolade at all. Andrew Walsh, who's won here already this year, starts on pole position. Double winner Chris Randall with him at the front of the grid. The experienced Simon Scuffham and Steve Williams share the second row. Andrew Kell is one to watch, who starts 6th, although Russ Treasure, who is 7th on the grid, had problems with the engine in the qualifying session. Christian Watkins won here in March in the handicap race. He starts 14th. Gavin Kirby has been the dominant driver in Class A for the production-based cars this season, and he's another quick driver worth keeping an eye on around here. And further back on a very full grid indeed, you'll find the brains behind this series, Paul Golding, splitting his time between racing and looking after all of his competitors. He starts 25th, just ahead of Jez Breaker, as Tom Chataway switching from his Vauxhall to an Elise S1 for the first time, joining the Lotus ranks. And Anthony Clark is first reserve. Hopefully he'll be able to take part in his first ever race, although that's rather dependent. There he is sitting in the pit lane on somebody else dropping out. In the background there you saw the Lotus 211, the car that Martin Donnelly was sitting in when Gemma was talking to him a little earlier. The grid then forming up. We've got 20 minutes of racing, not a set number of laps. The flag will go out to the winner the first time he crosses the line at the end of the 20 minutes. And this promises to be a very good race indeed. Andrew Walsh, there he is on pole position. Steve Williams, though, starting 4th on the grid. Very experienced driver, Steve Williams, and he's somebody else very keen to make a good getaway. Chris Randall, though, has had already 2 outright wins this year, looking pretty confident. And we go on board with David Skeggs. David Harvey ahead of him with his hand in the air. A problem, therefore, for David Harvey. The yellow flags wave now. Does that mean we're going to get a delayed start? Possibly, although David Harvey able to drive the car off the road. I still suspect the marshals may want that shifting. Let's see. David Skeggs then sitting on the grid, and this is going to help Anthony Clark, who's now at the space on the grid. He might get a run. Lights go out there, away they go. Good getaway by David Skeggs. Gets up alongside Russ Treasure as they power towards paddock for the first time. There's somebody sideways and bang! Look at that, a huge impact. Steve Williams it was who came across the road, and David Skeggs ploughs into the side of him. Let's have a replay of it. We didn't quite see how it was triggered. You see what happened ultimately, though. Steve Williams spears across the road. There you are. He's already got it sideways, and David Skeggs, with nowhere to go, T-bones him. And that was a very big impact indeed. Now, what triggered all of that? It may well have been 1 or 2 people trying to come through from low grid positions, just tagging the back of Steve Williams' car, maybe. The survivors turn through Druids for the first time. It's Chris Randall leading then. Simon Scuffham is second. There's another spinner at the top of the hill. Look. But this is the real drama now. Both David Skeggs and Steve Williams are okay. They're out of the cars, but the cars themselves are going to take a bit of shifting, and hence the safety car is out on track. Chris Randall, therefore, will form up behind it. Simon Scuffham and then Andrew Walsh at the top 3. And you can see the damage that's been done to the cars there. Russ Treasure going through, coming up towards us. Behind him on the road, Graham Walsh, number 8, and everybody else filing through. It could have been a whole lot worse, in fact, that accident, given how packed the grid was. Luckily, we only got 2 cars involved in that, in a sense. And so the safety car is on track. The race continues whilst the incident is cleared out of the way. Green flag this time. Safety car is back in. We're racing once again in the first Lotus on Track Elise Trophy race of the weekend. Chris Randall then leads Simon Scuffham and then Andrew Walsh over the line. You can see they're just joining in from the pit lane after having all sorts of problems. David Sutton, he's many laps behind him. He's going to go back out and see if the car's functioning now. And he's rejoined within that leading gaggle of cars. Andrew Kell has made his move on Chris Pearson to gain a place. There is Andrew Kell charging up on the inside. It's a lap therefore of the car of David Sutton, and now charges downhill. Behind him, Chris Pearson has got Christian Watkins, and then Sean Bicknell looming large in his mirror. So there's another good battle developing here as along Cooper Straight they come. A replay of further dramas for Russ Treasure. He has not had a good weekend at all. He did relatively few laps in qualifying before mechanical gremlins got in the way, and again the car pulls off out of this race. Andrew Kell goes through, then Pearson, and then the battle behind Christian Watkins and Sean Bicknell. This battle making its way now up towards Druid. You can see number 3, Christian Watkins, going pretty well here. He won the handicap race back in March on the Indy circuit here, and he goes through up the inside to move himself ahead therefore of number 77, Chris Pearson. Now Chris Pearson's also been in the wars a bit this weekend with the Motorsport Elise. He was in the gravel in qualifying, keeping out of trouble in the race though, although he has lost a place. Sean Bicknell behind him as meantime Chris Randall continues to dominate, but the battle of a second though now is certainly coming alive in the sense that now that Simon Scuffham is being really pressured by Andrew Walsh. There on the inside, Malcolm Sanders trying to gain ground, number 21, pretty experienced racer as well, done a lot of mileage with the Historic Sports Car Club over the years. Number 21, Malcolm Sanders going through. He's just got himself ahead of Tom Chataway, number 62, forsaking his Vauxhall VX220 in favour of a Lotus at last. Battle still raging on those. The cars turn their way through clearways. Number 9, Martin Roberts going through there. Meantime, up over the line, number 21, Malcolm Sanders about to try to gain further ground. There's Doug Setters, 24 ahead of him. As there, look, Sean Bicknell now gets himself ahead of Christian Watkins. Those two running together, and here Simon Scuffham is under real pressure from Andrew Walsh. It was Andrew that made history back in March here, winning the first ever Lotus on Track Elise Trophy. Since then, Chris Randall's been a bit quick in the sprint races, the conventional races that they have. At most events, there is a handicap race. Well, this weekend for the DTM support races, it's 2 conventional scratch races without having to worry about handicaps or credit laps. So what you see on the track is what you get. Chris Randall leading. Simon Scuffham is still there in second place, but at the moment, I'm not convinced he's going to be able to do much about catching Randall and the car in the gravel there. Look at paddock. It is Malcolm Sanders who's gone into the gravel bed. And we just said he was an experienced driver, I'm afraid. Malcolm is rather blotting his copybook here because he is ensconced in the gravel and that car is going no further. Now, here's a replay. Look to the top of the screen. He will arrive sideways out of paddock. Round comes the back into the gravel bed. He goes. That car is rather worryingly close to the edge of the circuit. Another replay, you see he just goes in a bit too hot. Round comes the back, and Malcolm Sanders' car spat off into the gravel bed. So do we get the safety car again? There's not that much time left in the race. There's Malcolm Sanders there in replay, clambers out of the car. You go and stand over there. You watch the race from a safer place rather than on the edge of the circuit here in the gravel. It does bother me a bit how close to the edge of the circuit that car is. It doesn't bother Chris Randall at all. He still leads. He has done since the race got underway. For second place, though, Scuffham and Walsh running nose to tail, almost side by side, going through paddock this time. And now the car's powering their way out of the right-hander. Andrew Walsh has dropped back just a length or two. Simon Scuffham, very experienced Lotus racer, still second, and he's going to finish second as well because there are the red flags. The race is being stopped, and that means that Chris Randall wins. A rather unfortunate first race of the weekend after such a big grid was assembled because they've got precious few racing laps in with a lengthy safety car period and then the race being stopped. I suspect the clerk of the course will be rather keen to go and have a word with the drivers at the end of today. There's the guilty party. That's Malcolm Sanders' car sitting in the gravel bed. So Chris Randall takes the race win. That was never really in doubt, having led all the way. Simon Scuffham taking second, and Andrew Walsh it is who will take third, ahead of Neil McKean fourth, Andrew Kell fifth, and Chris Pearson rounding out the top 6. There is Chris Randall then, making his way into the pit lane, and that means it is a third victory of the season in the Lotus on Track Elise Trophy for a very happy Chris Randall. Let's confirm the results to you then. Randall, Scuffham and Andrew Walsh the top 3. Neil McKean a good 4th ahead of Andrew Kell with Chris Pearson 6th. Sean Bicknell 7th ahead of Christian Watkins. Paul Harding takes 9th and a class win, and Mark Gooday rounds out the top 10 as Tristan Harris from MSVR, Motorsport Vision Racing, hands over the trophies. And there is Chris Randall, looking a bit bemused by all this, having not had that much work to do really. Very few racing laps, but he scores the race win nonetheless. There you see the winning cars down in the pit lane. The top 3 overall then, Chris Randall, Simon Scuffham and Andrew Walsh. Class B won by Neil McKean, and Class A in this first race of the weekend, won by a very happy Paul Harding.
So Paul, Class A winner this week, how was your race?
Good. Lucky for me, I started trouble on the first corner. Managed to get myself through and held off a few concerted efforts, particularly from Mick and from Gav. But happy to win.
Neil, you've had 3 third places and now a win. How was your race?
It was really good. I kept out of trouble on the start line and made my way up to 6th place before the safety car came out in about 3 corners. So, good result.
I think it's been gifted to me every race at the moment by, well, the first 2 rounds I did, Walshy broke down. And this round he managed to get collected at the start. So with him out of the way, I got a bit of a lead and yeah, ran away with it again. It was great.
David, what happened?
Well, yeah, starting, had a good start, very good start. David Harvey's grid spot was empty, so optimised that. And Andrew Kell sort of burning some rubber, as it were, and went round the outside of him. And then just saw Steve Williams coming across me and collected him. Good T-bone.